But we begin with new poll numbers showing Donald Trump taking a wide lead in a key early voting state. Welcome to Happening Now, everybody. I'm Jenna Lee.
I'm John Scott. The GOP primary race is heating up in South Carolina. A new Monmouth University poll of likely voters there shows Donald Trump far ahead, with 30% saying he's the candidate they would most likely support. Dr. Ben Carson in second with 15%. Jeb Bush stands at 9%. And now a public policy expert writing in this Reuters op-ed, quote, Trump's strongest supporters, roughly a quarter of Republican voters across the polls, are not dissuaded by any increased media scrutiny of their candidate. They have overlooked a series of faux pas that might have tanked other candidates. It appears, however, to be a constituency with whom he has barely interacted, white working class voters. So what's up with that? Let's bring in Joe Trippi, former Howard Dean campaign manager and a Fox News contributor. Tony Sayegh is a Fox News contributor as well and a Republican strategist. So, Tony, as the Republican strategist, let's start with you. We talk about constituencies. I just mentioned the term. What is Donald Trump's constituency?
Never underestimate the power of authenticity. And Donald Trump's constituency are people who look at Washington, see it as totally dysfunctional, look at generic structural political candidates, of which in the Republican field you have close to 15, Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina being the other notable non-political ones, and they seem frustrated with their choices. So naturally his constituency is going to be people who want something different, who want someone authentic and inspirational. Now you also have in Trump, I think, something that we've not seen in a long time from a major candidate, which is someone who shuns political correctness. And white working class voters largely feel marginalized in society today because of political correctness. So he makes that appeal on the policy side. You've heard him talk about immigration, manufacturing, trade, beating China, beating Iran. These are the things that really rile up, I think, a populist American base, which Trump is appealing to. But at the same time, it's also because he's just being himself, and people want someone real. And we see that that's what's actually hurting someone like Hillary Clinton on the Democrat side, whose lack of authenticity is obviously collapsing her campaign this early.
Well, Joe, a guy who flies in his own private 757 from event to event and lives in a gold-plated penthouse and, you know, has a 2 handicap and maybe not even a 2 handicap. He may be a scratch golfer from what I've heard. What does he have to do? I mean, how can he relate to the white working class?
I think they relate to him because they don't think he can be bought. He's not going to take some special interest position, and he's going to tell anybody who tries to push him around, he's going to shove right back, and they love that. I mean, and particularly when they think, Washington is just a bunch of people playing petty politics and putting their interests, the special interest ahead of the people. And that's what Trump's attraction is, and I think that the GOP establishment has underestimated him from the beginning, as have many pundits and others. But I think Tony's right. This is something that we're seeing on both sides of the aisle. Bernie Sanders is hitting, not in a totally different way, but striking the same kind of interest from people who just want something, anything, that's not part of the usual Washington political elites.
All of the Republican candidates, it seems, Tony, are critical of what's going on right now with regard to the markets in China and sort of laying the blame at the feet of the current administration. Will that be helpful? Will it work?
Well, look, obviously, for all these Republicans, their best message recourse is to focus on the failure of the Obama administration, certainly on the economy, which we know over 61% of Americans think is heading in the wrong direction, even after 7 years and trillions of dollars of Obama economic policies and spendings. But don't forget, Donald Trump was a lead indicator on this. He has been making China a centerpiece of his messaging from his announcement speech, as with immigration, which also we see becoming a much larger issue, largely because of Trump's influence. But you mentioned something, John Scott, before that I think we have to really understand better. Relating doesn't mean you have to be like me. Relating means you have to speak like me and relate to people like me and understand what we care about. That's where Trump, regardless of all the opulence that he is surrounded by, has really broken through. He speaks in a way, and I've heard this from many voters that we talk to on a regular basis, he speaks the way the average American, largely a lot of these disenfranchised white middle-class voters who see Washington failing them every day. He speaks in the same way, in the same language that they do, and that is connecting with them in a very strong way.
Meantime, Scott Walker has gotten a little bit tangled up in trying to be the candidate of the right, Joe. And the suggestion has been, I mean, the Wall Street Journal had an article out about how he has tripped himself up in trying to be sort of the most conservative guy in the race. What's your assessment?
Right. Well, that's not going to work. I mean, first of all, he's running in a race where there's a crowded field fighting for that, and Donald Trump's winning it right now, along with Ben Carson and others. He's getting boxed out, and he's even getting boxed out. I mean, those who want a governor or somebody with executive experience, he's got that flank. You know, there's Jeb Bush, there's Kasich, there are people flanking him there too. So, look, this is a problem that Trump is creating right now for the rest of the field. You can't get any attention. You can't even get into a position against him because of the media attention he's engendering and the crowds and the support he's getting. And that's in a lot of ways casting this big shadow on the rest of the field. And I think in a way it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of attrition here. And he's going to be around. Trump is going to be around a lot longer than some of these other candidates who we thought we're going to be the big, the two or three that would be fighting it out in the end. Some of them aren't going to be there at the end. I think Donald Trump may well be there.
All right. Joe Trippi, Tony Sayegh, thank you both.
Good to be with you, John.
We were talking earlier about Donald Trump. In addition to tweets about Jeb Bush and his immigration policy last night, Donald Trump tweeted out some personal attacks about our own Megyn Kelly. In response to those attacks, our boss, Fox News chairman and CEO Roger Ailes, has just issued this statement. He writes, Donald Trump's surprise and unprovoked attack on Megyn Kelly during her program last night is as unacceptable as it is disturbing. Megyn Kelly represents the very best of American journalism, and all of us at Fox News Channel reject the crude and irresponsible attempts to suggest otherwise. I could not be more proud of Megyn for her professionalism and class in the face of all of Mr. Trump's verbal assaults. Her questioning of Mr. Trump at the debate was tough but fair, and I fully support her as she continues to ask the probing and challenging questions that all presidential candidates may find difficult to answer. Donald Trump rarely apologizes, although in this case he should. We have never been deterred by politicians or anyone else attacking us for doing our job, much less allowed ourselves to be bullied by anyone. And we're certainly not going to start now. All of our journalists will continue to report in the fair and balanced way that has made Fox News Channel the #1 news network in the industry.